Welcome back to my channel, and if you are new, a big welcome. This video is a continuation from my previous video, Tort Law Part 2. Remember, my videos are to assist as additional study and revision, as well as a place where like-minded students want to interact and discuss the SQE1 and support each other. These study notes that I have put together as I study, and of which I share with you on this channel, also help me in revising as I also play this video as revision. Any questions around the SQE1 and finding other training providers, as well as resources to aid your study, please let me know in the comments section below. I will do my best to answer them, and if I can't, I will certainly try and find out for you. Defences. When the defendant has breached a duty of care to the claimant and the claimant has suffered a detriment, are there any forms of defence that the defendant can establish to escape liability? This is possible, and it is commonly referred to in legal terms and practice as contributory negligence. In this, we mean that the defendant could argue that the claimant did not take reasonable care in avoiding the harm, which then resulted in the claimant being harmed. If this can be successfully proved, the court has the power to reduce the amount of damages that the claimant could recover. It is important to note that contributory negligence by no means clears the defendant of their liability, but it reduces the defendant's liability. Let's cover some other aspects of the tort of negligence. As I already discussed in the previous video on tort law, negligence is highly significant. I will briefly summarise the other aspects of negligence. Pure economic loss. This is where the claimant seeks compensation for damages that may have resulted in them suffering a financial loss. If, say, they had a personal injury resulting in loss of earning or wages. Damages resulting in the cost of repairs would also be a financial loss to the claimant. The general rule is that pure economic loss is not recoverable in an action in negligence. This is because no duty of care is owed in respect of such a loss. Please note that where pure economic loss is caused by negligent statements, this may be recoverable if there is a special relationship between the defendant and the claimant. It would be good for you to read further on this and in more detail. Psychiatric harm. Compensation for personal injury includes both the physical impact of the injury as well as the consequences of that injury. This can be anxiety, distress, as well as psychiatric harm. Again, as a general rule, tort law does not allow recovery of damages for psychiatric harm that is caused without physical impact. Please read further on this as well. Employer's liability. An employer has a duty of care on their employees. This means that the employer needs to provide a safe work environment, safe systems of work, and competent staff. The employer's duty of care is non-delegable. This means it is a duty that the employer cannot delegate. Vicarious liability. This is a liability of one person for torts committed by another. I will give you an example. Let's say that I work for a company as a forklift driver in a warehouse. You come on a site visit of the warehouse as a contractor on business. I accidentally run you over with a forklift and cause you an injury. You, being the victim, can sue my employer through the principle of vicarious liability. So, let's be extremely careful whilst driving that forklift. Occupier's liability. This looks at the liability of an occupier for the damage and injury caused by the state of their premises. In the United Kingdom, we have what is called the Occupiers Liability Act 1957. This statute looks at the liability of occupiers to their lawful visitors or persons that they invite or allow to be on their premises. For example, the owner of a shop or building has occupiers' liability for the customers that come into that shop or building. What about non-visitors or trespassers, I hear you ask? Well, the Occupiers Liability Act 1984 governs the liability of occupiers other than their lawful visitors. However, the duty owed to a trespasser is limited. Liability for defective products. This is the duty of care owed by the manufacturers of products to the customer. For example, I buy a hairdryer that, unbeknown to me, is faulty, and the manufacturer had not conducted the necessary safety checks on it. I turn it on to dry my hair, and it explodes, and I sustain burns. The manufacturer could be liable for this defect. Please read further about the Consumer Protection Act 1987 to fully understand this liability. Well, that concludes this summarised revision module of Tort Law Part 3. I hope it has been helpful to you as an additional revision aid. Do subscribe so that you can keep receiving more videos from me around the various SQE1 exam modules. In my next video, Tort Law Part 3, I will be further exploring other areas of tort law. In the meantime, I wish you all well in your studies. See you in my next video.